better money choices. Choose a bank that takes your money seriously. Business Watch is brought to you by Nedbank.
All right, it's 2 p.m. Central African time. A very good afternoon to you and welcome to this Wednesday's edition of Nedbank Business Watch. My name is Fiso Ngumala. Happy to have you join us here on this very important show, Kingdom of Eswatini, who are examining the economic levers of Eswatini and how we can activate them for, obviously to drive sustainable innovation as well as transformation for the business growth of Eswatini, but also for a new frontier of leadership that is going to be essential, particularly because Eswatini is a young population, much like Africa, so that is going to be essential going forward, that all these young people have a conducive environment where they can thrive and therefore cannot be forced to migrate into other economies and leave Africa to doom. We will examine a lot of the, the developments that are undertaking there at Mavuso on the show today. But also we want to have our in-house economist, Sandilas Bia, just to chime into, what has been happening in America. You will remember that Donald Trump's presidency promised 90 trade deals in 90 days, but rather with fewer than 9 sealed, and the deadline quietly, just coming right now. It looks like less than 9 or under 10 deals have been sealed when he promised 90. So we want to get into that conversation on what is driving America's trade posture, but also on a new development. He has slapped 50% tariffs on all copper imports into America. So this trade posture keeps bringing in a lot of questions. So we want to see how, all those implications then, sit into the Kingdom of Eswatini, as South Africa is a major copper trader into America. So that conversation with Sandilas Bia also here on Nedbank Business Watch.
Yep. As Fiso said, the Unlock Summit is ongoing at the Mavuso Trade and Exhibition Center, and the first panel lineup brings together 4 influential leaders who are known not just for occupying senior positions, but for leading with intention, depth, and clarity. The panel painted the reality of where we are in business, entrepreneurship, and corporate leadership. Nosizo Mulela, Managing Director of Eswatini Bank, opened the discussion with insights on legacy, impact, and purpose-driven leadership. Moses Siaya, who's the Managing Director of Ubombo Sugar Limited and Vice President of Trade and Commerce and at Business Eswatini, explored strategic foresight and transformation across sectors. Mandla Chicks Ngumalo, Managing Director of Instacash and Investment Manager at Inhlonhla, offered a dual perspective as both founder and funder. And Tino Fagutos, the CEO of the Mbabane City Council, contributed her unique lens on public sector leadership. Stay tuned for more. And later,
we also do want to.
We'll have a recap of a clip from Kosi Ngwenya from Nedbank Eswatini. She'll be talking about the club savings account. So do stay tuned for this.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan anytime, anywhere. Human connects you to credit experts. Digital puts you in control of your money, while Human connects you to wealth advisors. Digital allows you to freeze, unfreeze, cancel, and reorder your card. Human gives you that personal touch. Digital when you want it. Human when you need it. Get the complete private banking experience with Nedbank Private Clients.
All right, welcome back. We are 4 minutes in. This is Nedbank Business Watch. Thank you for tuning in. And now for our business news.
Our first story, we focus on startups, which are very essential in the functioning of economies. However, there are existent challenges that entrepreneurs navigate, and of course, these affect business operations. This was revealed during the inaugural Unlock Summit, which rounded up about 2,500 attendees, including leaders from key industries, including finance, technology, and public sector development.
The summit integrated multi-sector insights and panel discussions that embraced leadership transformation, indicating a strategic move towards economic diversification, innovation and resilience. Managing Director of Local Startup, Instacash, Mandla Nxumalo, expounded on the challenges faced in the establishment of startups in the country, among which is mobilizing capital.
We're struggling quite a lot there. There's also struggling with capacity. You can't bring in all the right people that you want at the start because of the cost of that.
Right.
There's the cost of regulation. You feel as you're starting up, there's a lot of regulation that you can't afford even to support. I'll make an example in financial services. There is a big drive on compliance. I think all the ones that are in banking will tell you that. So most startups will struggle hard there because to get a solid compliance person, it is very difficult in this now. The new entrants came in. They set up what they called a sandbox, where you can come in and plug in and try and test your product within a supervised environment so that you are able to grow. So things like that could actually help startups. Also shared services. So if you could group them and say, you will need a lawyer, why not have a number of them incubated and have one lawyer to assist them.
In response, Gcinwe Fakutse, CEO of Mbabane Municipal Council, advocated for empowered public sector partnerships that drive collaborative development in communities and local government.
All cities must have what we coin a local government, a local economic development framework. And the LED framework is not just a document, a policy document. We actually then implement it because it speaks about identifying spaces. It talks about from an urban planning perspective to your public health issues, to environmental issues, the legislative issues, training, development. So it's really a long list of things that we do from a local government space to enable. But we've also now recently just got into active spaces of creating PPPs. Because what we've also noted from a local government space is that there are areas we do want to play and do business, but maybe we shouldn't be giving it to big business all the time. We should come in and partner with small enterprises or small entities, assist them to develop and grow and sort of become experts in that space.
The summit marks a new era for business convening in Eswatini, spanning multiple sectors with focus on collective growth, innovation and purpose. For Nedbank Business Watch, Notile Sitole with Vumingo Sinzinisa and Derek Msibi, Manzini.
The Central Bank Governor, Dr. Phil Mnisi, calls for collaboration across different sectors to drive innovation, urging young entrepreneurs to take advantage of digital platforms to build globally competitive businesses. Dr. Mnisi says the country must embrace digital tools, especially in finance and entrepreneurship, to overcome development challenges.
Talking about leadership is so crucial because all fails and rise from leadership. My reflections will be on the core of a leader that makes a difference in politics, in the public sector, in the private sector, aggregated on this. I believe that a leader must be authentic. You need to be authentic in what you do. Because if you lack integrity, you are never going to lead, whether as an entrepreneur, as a corporate leader, even as a family leader. The second one is when we lead with impact, and influence. we have to know that as leaders, we are influencing, we are shifting, we are causing things to happen, deploying the limited resources to achieve more. In fact, the Pareto principle, using limited resources, 20%, but yielding 80% outcome. The economy needs to be rekindled. The financial sector has to be robust. We are talking about financial inclusion. We are talking about digitization, automation. We are talking about artificial intelligence. We are talking about cross-border and fast payments. I believe that the whole ecosystem must take a reflection and say, what part am I playing to play a role to take Eswatini to be the great country that it is and it can become. So I think in all sectors, both the private sector, the public sector, the financial sector, we must work like an oiled machine, cooperate, driven by the compelling vision.
Right, and that's it for our business news. It's 10 minutes after 2. We continue after the break.
With Sanders Beer.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.za.
Welcome back. This is our live interview segment. Now, Donald Trump's White House had grandly promised 90 deals in 90 days after, of course, partially pausing the process of levying what the U.S. president called reciprocal tariffs. In reality, there won't even be 9 deals done by the time we reach Trump's first cut-off date on 9 July. Now, this is revealing the thing here. The poker tell, if you like, is the extension of the deadline from Wednesday until the 1st of August with the possibility of further extensions or delays to come. Our in-house economist, Sanders Beer, breaks down the reasoning behind this change, as well as the target desire by the White House on the deadlines. He joins us virtually via our Zoom video link. Sanders, good afternoon. Welcome to the show. The first thing, maybe let's begin with what feels like a strategic retreat that is masked as a recalibration. What does this deadline extension from July 9th to the 1st of August signal about the White House's true position on these so-called reciprocal tariffs?
Thank you, Mr. Numado, and a pleasant afternoon to you and the viewer. So what we are seeing here, Mr. Numado, is the fact that the U.S. is actually a trading economy, and the U.S. actually depends on trade. And in most cases, in terms of trades in goods and services, the U.S. is a net importer, right? So what this essentially means, Mr. Numado, is in as much as the U.S. wants to get some sort of a reciprocation in terms of the trade, just to close up that trade deficit, because one of the issues that the White House is primarily concerned with when it comes to these tariffs is to actually close that trade deficit so that you get the US back in good balancing in terms of balancing the current account and the capital account, so that you get what we call balanced trade. So that's what President Trump is really looking for. But what you've got to understand is behind all of this is the President Trump's ability, desire to create jobs for Americans, more especially the working class Americans. The desire is to get manufacturing jobs back into the U.S. The desire is to get the men on the street in the U.S. working. But when you would want to do that as well, Mr. Numalo, you've got to understand that there are positives. There are a lot of positives to trade. For example, if companies were in a position to produce those commodities in the U.S. and still be in a position to sell them competitively by basic economic principles, all the theories of trade that you would want to look into, even the very old one, your Adam Smith model or the Ricardian model, it basically just if they were in a position to do that competitively, they would be doing that in the US competitively. So right now, that's what our companies have to weigh. What the implications of moving production back into the US would mean in terms of the final selling price and in terms of their ability to export. So that's one of the most difficult things that I think the Trump presidency is now trying to contend with. But when you look at it at the very basics of it, Mr. Numalo, the idea here is to get to a deal. That is why we're seeing this deadline being so very flexible right now. And if you look at markets are no longer that much concerned about every other announcement that is being made, because the deadline seems to be moving forward and being pushed forward and forward. So what that signals to an independent like myself is President Trump basically wants deals. He wants these countries to reciprocate. He wants the US to get a portion of the pie back, but without significantly disrupting supply chains and making it difficult for countries to export their commodities into the US or for the US to import, Mr. Numa, because I think that's the easiest way to look at it. A tariff is paid by the importing country. So what this essentially
Well, our economist analyst, we are there facing network difficulties on his end. We are hoping that he's able to reconnect and we are able to, further our conversation. But it's just weighing in on Donald Trump, of course, delaying tariffs as the rest of the world plays hardball. It grandstanded with the 90 deals in 90 days initially, yet it now appears fewer than 9 will be concluded. He's chiming in from an economic lens, and he's saying that it's a safe move, or rather a smart move by the Trump's administration. But it questions his trade credibility, or rather it does question America's trade credibility. But nonetheless, it is a safe and smart decision by President Donald Trump that he made. But we would have loved to also localize this for a moment and come back to Eswatini, because we did mention in our intro that on a newer development, he has slapped 50% tariffs on copper imports coming into America. And we know that South Africa is amongst those major traders for copper in America, trading copper into America. So, yeah, would have loved to hear him chime into that. But we can go for a break and hopefully we can have him reconnect.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406 7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. This is Nedbank Business Watch. We get into an interesting segment. We want to speak to the financial solution that is designed to empower communities as well as drive collective prosperity. Now, imagine a savings platform that doesn't just safeguard your money, but actively works to build financial resilience for you and your group. That is very important. And I can sort of assume that we all need that. The Nedbank Club Savings Account is more than just a savings tool. It is here. It is a gateway to structured financial growth, tailored for groups and shared financial goals. Now, with no maintenance or service fees, competitive interest rates, and access to personal loans, it is an offering that is a game changer for savings clubs and community groups that are looking to secure their financial future. And I believe that is all of us. Now, to unpack the details, as well as to explore how this initiative aligns with broader financial inclusion goals, Kosi Ngwenya joins me now. She's the SME consultant from Nedbank. Kosi, welcome to the show. A very good afternoon to you. You know, I'm just thinking about myself and my friends as I speak about this important offering. But maybe before we get there, I'm getting too excited. Let's start with the basics. What inspired Nedbank to introduce the club savings account, and what gap does it fill in the market?
Thank you, Sifiso, for the warm welcome. It's always a pleasure. What inspired Nedbank to talk about the club savings account?
Right.
We want to promote the financial inclusion in line with our government strategies. That is one. And also, we would like to grow our primary bank clients, those that get salaries through Nedbank Eswatini. And also, we would like to grow our liabilities as the bank.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's quite interesting because when you speak about club savings account, there's sort of this, it's not even just perceived, it's a reality on the ground, the struggles of security and just the struggles that are just there in terms of the interpersonal relationships that are there. But how does this account from Nedbank ensure both financial safety and flexibility for its members?
Thank you, Sfiso. Flexibility, it is quite a flexible account. You would remember it is free from service charges. It is basically a free account, and the cash deposits, they're also just free, and clients are able to withdraw their money.
Yeah, but I also just want us to speak on the security aspect of it all, because, I mean, you saw the headlines in December, quite a lot of them, even prior to December, November, because I assume people start saving when the year starts.
When the year starts,
as groups. So towards November, that December bug and excitement is around, you know, the atmosphere. And there are people that run away with money in terms of management of the money. There isn't that much security and surety around that. What sells me to go to Nedbank now to say, at least I know that I'm guaranteed some security?
Okay, thank you, Sfiso. The club savings account, as you'll remember, the requirements, going back to the requirements, it has the constitution, it has members that are signing for that account. So it does have the element of encouraging accountability. So everyone is accountable for what's happening to the money to ensure security, and the members, some they even use our internet banking platforms where everyone has access to see what is going on in their accounts. It's not just on one person to say Sifiso is looking into our accounts, some of those accounts that we have seen and people running away with people's funds. But this one, everyone is able to see what is happening, what has come in, what has been withdrawn.
Yeah,
I think
incredible.
That's the security feature that is there.
Yeah, incredible, because oftentimes that is, almost always the biggest concern, that one person can monitor the money or see what is really happening with the money. But I also like, the idea around the constitution and, all the fine print therein, because me and you and some of our friends can just agree, let's save money, it's going to stay with Corsi, and that is just a verbal agreement, and there's some really, really, dangers there, because even if we try to arrest you, it's just your word against ours, and that may not prevail in the court of law.
To add on to that, Sifiso, remember, if we do have signatories on that constitution, we get the mandate, the signing mandate is a 2 per given time, so the member just can't come in the bank willy-nilly to say, I need this, without the other signatories. So that, on its own, it ensures the safety of the client's money.
It's a great security feature,
It is. It is.
Let's talk about the standout features that I see here when I read about it. This account being zero maintenance and zero service fee structure, how that compares to other savings options in the market, and why that is so important for me as a client.
Remember, Sifiso, the whole basis of having a savings account is for people, they just want to save. We just want to keep our money safe without having to be, if we do a deposit, we are supposed to pay for it. But in this one, whether you deposit, it is free. Whether you do withdrawal, it is free. The service, there's just zero service. That's what sets us apart from our counterparts.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do want us to speak on, the other parts of accessibility. I mean, you've already spoken to the idea around tracking the savings, that, everyone's allowed to do that. But there's also the element of withdrawing. There's the element of depositing, which is also important. How easy is it for members to be able to do that?
To withdraw.
To withdraw, track, as well as deposit into the
For withdrawals fee, so it's easy as over-the-counter withdrawal. Remember, it's free. It's free for the first 2 transactions in a month, in a given month, and then the other 3 and subsequent withdrawals, then it's 30 rands per transaction.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's as easy as that. You can get the money anytime, as long as the signing mandate is in order. You get the money over the counter.
Let's speak about financial inclusion and growth. You did mention in your first, answer that the most important pillar around this is just, the government mandated financial inclusion that you guys are adhering to rigorously, as you are. But, given that each member of the club can apply for a loan twice the value of their savings, I think that is very critical. How does Nedbank ensure responsible lending there while promoting financial growth? Maybe you could just break down what that really means, because sometimes this financial jargon for a layman can be eluding.
Okay, what this means, Sifiso, is, let's just say at the end of the year, you are eligible to maybe 50,000 of your savings. So what Nedbank is dangling is you can have double that as a loan that we can give you. But the catch is the 50,000 that you were eligible for, or it's then placed on a fixed deposit. Okay. Yeah. And you are allowed a 48 months repayment period. That is when after that you can access the 48 months.
48 months, yes.
48 months of repaying, and then you can have access to your 50,000. So It does look attractive because you can
Indeed.
have your 50 and save your 50.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
And I see how that is attractive for both the individual, which is the client, as well as the bank. You know, the bank looks very attractive with this offering there. Perhaps let's look at the campaign and future outlook of this offering, how the market has responded so far for this product, and some of the success stories that you may want to share here.
Thank you, Sifiso. I am actually excited when you asked me about success stories.
Right.
We have women down south, the women that involved in the sugarcane industries now. They started these things, the businesses, they started by just saving, the club savings account.
Yeah.
And as they grow and everyone was being included down the Makaya and
that is inclusion to me.
That is inclusion.
But also empowerment.
Yeah, empowerment. Most especially women empowerment. Imagine a woman being a sugarcane farmer. So those are one of the success stories that we have. And we have communities. Communities now, they have savings where they do water schemes, they build holes, the holes that they use then for the community events, they rent them out and they get money in that way. So they start this as just club savings account to say we need to save, we need to build a hole, or we need to do a water scheme. And you find that the community is benefiting in that way.
What a charming offering. You know, perhaps even bringing it in a more intimate or immediate level outside of, you know, just, you know, that broader advantage that we see in terms of social benefits with businesses and everything. In a very micro level, I think you were sharing a story before we got on air that you do have, you know, someone that's very close to you who was able to pay for their school fees, their kids' school fees.
Yeah. So because Sifiso, you will imagine the hype that goes into November, December, and everyone just wants to spend during the festive season. And then January comes, and we are all stuck. But what we've seen with the savings account is the club members, they are using those funds to just pay the school fees before the whole January fever that we have. So it is really working, and I would really employ Maswati to look into the club savings account.
I love it. Look, I really love it because it speaks to prudence. You know, when we speak about financial prudence, that is one of the most overlooked things around, you know, finances. You just need to make that wise decision because these sort of things can catch up with you. But, you know, as we were speaking about accessibility and how, you know, members are allowed to easily track, withdraw, as well as deposit their funds into this club savings account, I wonder, is that also integrated digitally?
You remember, Sifiso, I did say that some of the club accounts, they do have the internet banking facility, which is also free. So we are also, as a bank, we are going in line with the technological advances that are coming, and we just want to go hand in hand with those to include the clubs there. So we are not left far off behind.
You can always, you know, be able to track these products online, and you know, that speaks to Nedbank moving or being at par with other developed nations, just making sure that we don't lag behind. And I'm sure that your tech team will be on the lookout for any emerging technologies, and they will integrate as they should as they emerge. That was Kosi Ngwenya, the SME consultant from Nedbank, giving us the club savings account benefits that you want to make sure that you get online right now. You get in touch with Nedbank. They are available on social media at X, on X, former Twitter, formerly known as Twitter. They have Facebook, and they are on LinkedIn as Nedbank Eswatini. Thank you for staying with us. Let's go for that break. We'll be back shortly.
Welcome back. You're still tuned into Nedbank Business Watch. Thank you for staying with us. We now take a look at how markets are reacting with Nozi from Nedbank. A very good afternoon, Nozi. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining us, rather, this afternoon. Markets are reacting or are processing tariff news again after Donald Trump said he would impose, is it 50% tariff on imported copper? Yeah, what's going on there? Fill us in.
So Trump has said a lot. But I think after watching significant gains of the rand last week, we saw it retreat this week after on Sunday Trump announced that he would be imposing 10% tariffs on BRICS-aligned countries. So that did move markets quite a bit, and we know that South Africa is the S in BRICS. So with the ZAR being such a risk-sensitive currency, we immediately saw it lose momentum after that, and it's continued to lose momentum up until now. So currently the rand against the ZL is trading at 17.8275. The pound against the ZL is trading at 24.2250. And the euro against the ZL is trading at 20.8850. So you can see that it's lost strength against all major currencies. But what's helped with that, or helped it balance out the losses, is the fact that there's so much optimism around the negotiations with the US, the trade negotiations with the US. So we know that today is the 9th of July, and the initial deadline for negotiations was today, which is the 9th of July for all countries, but that seems to have been extended to the 1st of August. So South Africa has a lot of worry and anxiety around that, because the US is one of South Africa's biggest trading partners after China. And so everyone has a vested interest in what those negotiations will look like. And what South Africa is seeking to achieve in the negotiations is firstly a maximum tariff of 10%. Also exceptions to their key exports. So this being autos, auto parts, steel, aluminium, and the likes. They want exceptions to those. And then what they are offering the US in exchange is to buy liquefied natural gas from the US in exchange for that. But we'll see. South Africa has decent bargaining power. I mean, they are the world's biggest producer of platinum by far. So they have bargaining power. They also have a lot of rare earth materials within the country. So there's optimism around that. So it's sort of balancing out the losses.
Yeah, because we have trade relations with South Africa, Nozi, do we somehow indirectly affected or impacted by what's happening between the US and South Africa?
Yeah, we definitely are. I mean, we are pegged to the rand. So if the rand is affected, if their costs are higher, if they are unable to export to other countries, automatically we also get affected.
Okay. So Trump also said he's only days away from sending one of his tariff letters to the EU. Was it something that the EU had hoped or anticipated would happen?
Sure, with Trump, you're never really sure. So it's probably not something they had anticipated would happen. And even around the first comment that you made with the 50% tariff on copper, seemingly Europe has been able to shrug off those announcements, and I think everyone's just waiting to see what the final decision is.
Yeah, so otherwise, how are markets reacting to what is happening in the US?
It's a bit tricky because nothing is expected. Everything that's being announced on a daily basis is so unexpected. So we are seeing especially the risk-sensitive currencies lose strength because of that.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at equities. Yes, the S&P 500 is on the red zone today, not quite performing well. Take us through equities today.
Okay, the S&P 500 in the red zone, but very marginally so. So it closed off in this position yesterday, weighed down primarily by stables and utilities. Trump is also still at loggerheads with the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, saying things like he needs to resign immediately, and even also saying he's whining like a baby about non-existent inflation. So I think we can still see that there's a lot of tension there in the US. The FTSE, on the other hand, is holding quite steady. Again, they shrugged off the comments that the announcement that Trump made about the 50% copper tariffs. And the JSE All Share Index also marginally red, but relatively stable. And that's primarily because we are all just hopeful and anticipating the outcomes of the trade negotiations.
Okay, so moving on to commodities this afternoon, how are they reacting to what's happening in the market?
Commodities, we have gold that's currently trading at $3,289.23 per ounce. The price of gold has declined, primarily due to a firmer US dollar and rising treasury yields. This comes after Trump unsettled markets by emphasizing that the now 1 August deadline is definitely not going to be delayed. So we've seen that have an impact on the price of gold. The price of Brent crude oil currently trading at $74.42 per barrel. That price, we've seen it ease from 2-week highs as investors await the outcomes of these tariff discussions. Also, the US, which is the largest producer of oil, is projected to reduce its oil production in 2025, primarily due to the declining oil price that has prompted producers to slow economic activity.
Okay.
So.
All right. No, you just going back, Nozu, to what's happening in the US.
Yeah.
Will the imposition of these tariffs lead to a downgrade to South Africa's economic growth forecast?
I wouldn't want to presume that. Hopefully not.
Okay.
Hopefully not, but it will actually affect the GDP of South Africa. I think South Africa has a relatively stagnant GDP. I think it hasn't gone above 2% in a couple of years, almost a decade. And there are worries around economic activity in South Africa. So if you're imposing tariffs, you're also then reducing probably the amount of exports to America, and automatically that's then a ripple effect because it's loss of jobs. If businesses are not doing well, jobs are lost. It affects you and I now.
Manufacturers must be worried,
Exactly.
They're wondering what comes next.
Exactly.
What's next now?
Exactly. And what's unfortunate is really the people who get affected at the end are the consumers.
Definitely. Okay.
So, yeah.
Right, and also the impact on businesses, agricultural sectors and mining sectors,
Yes.
with all what's happening in the US.
There's going to be a lot of impact on those sectors. I think macadamia nuts are one of the biggest exports to the US as well. So automatically we are then in a bad position because of that. But I think what everyone's waiting to see, Lulu, is what actually happens on the 1st. Because we've been in this tariff conversation for a couple of months now. Today was supposed to be D-Day, but we're sitting here and it's still not D-Day. So we're all anticipating to see what happens on the 1st of August. Are the negotiations successful? It helps that South Africa has good bargaining power because there's a much bigger chance that they'll be successful, but we're all anxious.
Just lastly, before I let you go, so there are more negatives than positives to what's happening in the US in regards to how the markets reacts to the tariffs, Donald Trump's tariffs.
Yeah, especially for us who are linked to the rand in South Africa, it really has a negative impact on the rand.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. Well, there you have it. Market analysis with Nozi this afternoon. Thank you for staying with us. We continue after the ad break. Do not go anywhere.
Hey, you're catching me at a good time. Now, there's a lot of stuff that I could spend this on. But before I do that, I'll send some of this off to my brother who can put it to good use. You see, there are hundreds of millions of people, like me, who work outside of their home country. Because sometimes people have to go where the opportunity is or where the instability isn't. That often means leaving families behind and earning a living elsewhere, but still sending money home for support. These money transfers are often called remittances. Communication and financial technology make it easier than ever to send money across borders. Let me show you. You pick the amount, pick the beneficiary, make sure all the information is correct, and send. Oh, that's my brother calling. Hey, Alex, I just got the cash. It's just what I needed. Now I can pay for the doctor to look at my neck and get back to work. Thanks, man. Yeah, no problem. Feel better. Thanks again. Sending money back home makes it possible for people who live in wealthier countries to help family pay for the basics: food, housing, education, and medical expenses. Remittances help reduce poverty by moving money where it can make bigger difference for the people and countries who receive it. This helps spur investment and entrepreneurship and build savings that can help promote growth and development. So while this amount may get me a dinner and a movie here, for my brother it could help cover his rent or pay for those doctor's bills. In low and middle income countries, remittances can actually make up a good portion of economic activity, even the majority. For example, Mexico's remittances exceed revenue from oil exports. In Sri Lanka, they're greater than the value of the tea trade. And Egypt's remittances are worth more than its income from the Suez Canal. And they're also an increasing portion of the global GDP. In 2022, remittances amounted to $831 billion US dollars. And that's just through official channels. So the number is probably a lot bigger. This money mainly flows into low and middle income countries where it adds up to more than foreign investments and development aid combined. One downside for those countries, though, is the cost of sending money through a service. Some charge a steep fee, up to 35%. Lowering the average service charge to just 3% would mean an extra $30 billion every year for low-income and developing countries. And that's money that would be better spent on family and friends. Ah, that's my brother calling again. Hey, how are you feeling? Much better now, thanks to you. Yeah, I'm glad I could help. Say hi to everyone back home.
Welcome back. Let's spotlight now this compelling excerpt by a business leader. It's a keynote delivered by a global business leader, Vusi Thembekwayo, at the Keys Unlock Summit, opening his address with a sharp focus on what is collective prosperity. And he laid bare a fundamental truth that effective leadership often demands the courage to be unpopular. And he issued a clarion call to entrepreneurs not to start small, but to grow, scale, occupy space boldly.
Yeah, because the mandate, as you framed it, is not merely to survive, but to become as big as possible. Let's take a listen.
Lengths they would not go.
All right, that is Vusi Thembekwayo, global leader, businessman, investor, speaker, best-selling author, speaking at the Keys Unlock Summit, delivering his keynote address there. We are trying to get you to listen to his excerpt there, but sorting out a few sound technical issues now. But perhaps a brief, summary as to what he was speaking on. He was speaking on the importance of collective prosperity, highlighting collaboration being key for prosperity for any nation, really, and that synergies have to be made. But he also did highlight a very important aspect in preconditioning as, being a good leader. You need to understand that sometimes you will be unpopular, making reference, of course, to President President Donald Trump, who has made some very bold and sometimes very questionable assertions, but still he is ready to be unpopular. But the best thing and the most important thing for Donald Trump is putting America first. And he is submitting, that is Vusi, that as Africans, we must put Africa first. And as the Kingdom of Eswatini, we must be always ready to put Eswatini first, regardless whether that makes us unpopular to other people. But he also continued to speak to the entrepreneur of the day, speaking on, of course, responsibility to get as big as possible as you start. But we go back to the clip and we listen to Vusi Tembegwayo.
To underscore that Africa's youthful population presents both a gift and a challenge, urging today's decision makers to build enabling environments. Otherwise, he warned the continent risks losing its brightest young minds to Europe and beyond.
Africa today has the world's youngest population, with over 60% of the population in this continent of ours under the age of 25. By 2034, we will have the world's largest working population, or rather, working age population. If you look at it this way, one of the things you notice is Europe is getting old. It's a big challenge for Europe. So I had happened upon a conversation with an ambassador of a particular nation state. I won't tell you which one, because it was a confidential conversation, and they said something to me which made my hair stand on end. Sister, you know what they said to me? They said, Europe's strategy for Africa is extract and contain. Just think about what I just said to you. This is an ambassador, and he says to me, Europe's strategy for Africa is very simple. Extract and contain. I said, extract what? And then he says, well, because you guys don't know what to do with it, this is what he said. He said, we will extract all of your raw minerals, but we won't stop there. We will also extract all of your top talent. So we will leave you to educate them 18 years in your national system. When you're done, we will extract them to our university system, and the life we give them will be so much better than the life you could give them, they will not return. We will extract these resources, and of what remains, the carnage that remains, our job is simply to contain it. This is why today in Europe there is such a big challenge with immigration, because if you walk the streets of Rome, as I did recently, I remember first time traveling to Rome, for me was 12 years ago, and I recently went to Rome. There are now entire corridors and entire neighborhoods in Rome that are littered with people from all over Africans. The reason is because the contain part of the strategy is not working. So Europe got the memo, they're getting old, they need Africa's young population. The Americas, similar, Asia to a lesser extent, now look at us. With 50% or more of our population under the age of 50 years old. In Nigeria alone, over 40% of the population is under the age of 17. Bazalwana, let me download what that means for all of us. That means close on half the population is not economically active yet. So what happens when they do become economically active? They're going to need homes, cars, bank accounts. They're going to need phones, people to love who will love them back. Hopefully one, maybe two, you don't know. But all of this is the promise of this collective prosperity. So the reason I say think bigger is because you have to find a way to build an organization and a business that can cater for these 1.1 billion people on this continent of ours that we call Africa. You have to think bigger than Matsapa. There are many self-employed people who are not entrepreneurs yet. I'll explain the difference. When you're an entrepreneur, when you're self-employed, you have a trusted small circle, and you begin to build a code that's going to run your business. You should be spending your time here doing things like financial record keeping, drafting your standard operating procedures, and KPIs that you should be tracking every single day. If you just follow this framework, it'll give you a sense of where you are in your business. The next level is where you become a business owner. What's the difference? The professional has specialized knowledge. The self-employed person has a small, trusted team. There are 2 or 3 people around you that you know operate what you do. You can maybe take 3 days leave, but you can't take 3 months leave. A business owner begins to write the rules for what runs their business. And so it's around automating some of the things that you do. And what actually happens to a lot of business owners is this, Uncle Phil. They suffer this thing called implementation fatigue. My experience doing work with entrepreneurs on our continent is we're great at going from here to here, and then we stop. The reason is because you're writing the rules for your business, you're implementing them every day. You're testing, trying, failing, testing, try, fail, test, try, fail. So what happens is you get stuck there. Have you ever been so busy being busy that you can't be busy thinking? Does anybody know what I'm talking about? This is the challenge that I mean. And suddenly when you take a week's leave, you can feel your brain kind of lift into the heavens and you start to ideate and think again. And then you go, when I get back, these are the things I'm going to do. And 2 days into being back, you've forgotten the list. It's because you're sitting in the valley of death where people suffer implementation fatigue.
Vusi Thembekwayo delivering his keynote address at the Unlock Summit, which is proudly sponsored by The Key. And of course, he's throwing a lot of imperatives to the people. And it's more than just a keynote address. It's not just inspirational, but it's also very tactical as he submits a lot of education there through his slideshows as well as the data and some of his personal conversations and experiences he's had with other global leaders who have spoken on Africa, and of course sharing that anecdotal experience with one of his global friends, that their strategy as Europe is to extract and then contain in Africa, which raises a very urgent imperative for Africa, because as young as it is, the young people require a conducive environment now for them not only to be educated, but for them to then thrive here in Africa after the education and not have to seek and migrate into, other continents. And so he submits that that is the responsibility for young people to wake up and understand that they are the leaders of tomorrow as much as they are the students of the day. They are going to carry much of the efforts of tomorrow. And he extends that responsibility also to the current leaders who may not so much be considered young, to understand that their time will be up very soon. And so they need to make the space for the young people to keep Africa alive and thriving. So, yeah, a very sobering and a very important address by Vusi Thembekwayo at the Keys Unlock Summit.
Yeah. And apart from Thembekwayo's keynote address, we did have a few panelists such as the Eswatini Bank Managing Director, Nosizo Mulela, who opened the discussions with insights such as insights on legacy, impact and purpose-driven leadership. And also we had the Ubombo CEO, Moses Siaya, as Managing Director of Ubombo Limited, and the Vice President of Trade and Commerce at Business Eswatini. Also talked about strategic foresight and transformation across sectors. And of course, we did have the one and only Mandla Cheeks Ngumalo, Managing Director of Instacash and Investment Manager at Inhlonhla. He offered a dual perspective as both funder and a founder of these businesses. And lastly, we saw CEO Mbabane Municipality Qiniwe Fagutwe. She also talked about, she contributed rather her unique lens on public sector leadership. It was an incredible event and such an incredible presentation by Vusi Thembekwayo.
Still ongoing, by the way, at the heart of Manzini at Mavuso Sports Center. And we are bringing you what is happening locally that is current. And we hope that you appreciate that we always have what is fresh for you, but not only what is fresh, but what is important from what is happening in the Kingdom of Eswatini. But beyond, these talk shops and everything that is incredible that we have seen today, we hope that inspiration, as Vusi highlighted, turns into concrete action. People don't just go out there feeling inspired, but they can act on that inspiration. And hopefully the Kingdom of Eswatini and Africa at large can thrive and be a growing economy and just be at par with the rest of the economies of the world, which we benchmark from right now.
Yeah, definitely. We've come to the end of our program. Thank you for tuning in. If you've just joined us, you can still watch this episode on our YouTube page. We'll see you next week at exactly 2 p.m.
This has been Nedbank Business Watch, and thanks so much for staying with us. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Bye-bye.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan anytime, anywhere. Human connects you to credit experts. Digital puts you in control of your money, while Human connects you to wealth advisors. Digital allows you to freeze, unfreeze, cancel, and reorder your card. Human gives you that personal touch. Digital when you want it. Human when you need it. Get the complete private banking experience with Nedbank Private Clients.